Yes, it did say Mike Ramsden would be interviewing Merwan in the program today, and obviously he's not here. But I think it is important to remind Mike of the first point in Baba's wish, which he read last night. Do not shirk your responsibilities. But Baba has given us so many wonderful gifts, and some of those gifts are the guests that it's our privilege and pleasure to interact with here at the Sahavas. And today is no exception, and so it's really a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to introduce Merwan Mehta. Merwan was born in a Baba family in Ahmednagar, with many family members who were Baba lovers. He was educated locally there in Ahmednagar, and then in Pune in college, and then in Bombay, where he got a degree in engineering. In 1987, he came to the United States, got a master's degree. He went to Chicago to work for a few years, went back and got a PhD, a doctorate in engineering management, and is now a partner and one of the principals in a manufacturing firm in Rolla, Missouri, near St. Louis, and is one of the directors of that company. And so he is certainly in the world, and very much of a Baba lover at the same time. And he's going to be talking about what it's like to be in the world and not of it, from his perspective, at his next talk. Today, I want to ask him a few questions related to his background, his perceptions, his experiences with Baba, and he'd like to share that with you. So, I'd like to start by Merwan asking you to maybe tell us a little bit about your family and how they came to be Baba lovers.
Well, my parents were Baba lovers for the whole life that I was. So I was born into the Baba family. The interesting story is about how my family came to Baba first. This was in the 20s, when my two uncles, they used to take a daily walk from Akbar Press, if you know that where Akbar Press is, up to Mehrabad, and on one of their walks they sort of saw that at Mehrabad, at Arangaon, there was one person who was saying he's a Sadguru, and he had started a school. That time Baba had started the Manzil-E-Meem, and so they went and talked to him, and then immediately there was a connection. And so from that day they went almost daily for a walk to Mehrabad. And then they invited Baba to come over to Akbar Press, and then Baba, on his way from Pimpalgaon, used to stop at Akbar Press, and that started our family's relationship with Baba. What sort of is different about an experience like that is Baba was that time had not declared his avatarhood, and sort of he was in the process of doing it. Now, when a person, it's like you living with someone all the time, and then all of a sudden he starts telling you he is God. And my uncles did run into a problem like that, because it's sort of, you start to wonder now, what's this guy, is he in his right mind or something like that. But my uncles, they kept up with what Baba said. They sort of kept meeting Baba and eventually became real close Baba lovers. In fact, if ever you go to Ahmednagar, so one of my uncles is still living there. Nashwan, he used to run a kind of a lodge, a kind of a motel there in Ahmednagar, and you could sort of still go and meet him. Next year he's going to be 100, and I'm hoping to be there to celebrate his 100th birthday. So. Thank you. So that is the way my family's connection started with Baba. When my mother, then my mother was born, and then she was more like a person who was born into a Baba family. But then Baba that time used to keep coming to Akbar Press, and my mother always cooked for him, and Baba was always in a hurry because he had to go to Mehrabad from Pimpalgaon. So he would come unannounced a number of times and say, "Where's my food? Where's my food? Come on, where's my dal and rice?" and things like that. And so she always reminded me of how she cooked fast food for Baba instead of me. But and then a number of times I would, if I was to complain about something, well, the food is sort of today not spicy or something like that, I said, "I don't need your opinion. Baba has given me an A+." And so that's how my family grew with Baba. My father lived in Gujarat, which is a neighboring state to Maharashtra, and Baba was in Navsari and all those places, and my father became a Baba lover independently, and eventually he came over to Bombay and he started working there in a library in Bombay, and that's when my mother and father met and sort of decided to get married. So both of them married as Baba lovers.
And so, needless to say, both of your parents were deeply committed to Baba, and
They were deeply committed, both of them, correct.
still working. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. We're getting sound through this thing? It's okay. So you told a little story earlier about your mother coming to visit, and about an example of
About her conviction.
Sure.
Yeah, my mother was a very ardent Baba lover, but then we used to sort of make fun of her at times and say, "Let's do this," and she would then say, "No, I don't think so," and say, you are a Baba lover, Baba would take care of you," or something like that we would tell her. But what sort of struck me then was, once we had a couch, and we said that could be opened into a bed, and we said, "Mother, why don't you sleep in this room, and there's a couch here, we'll make it into a bed." And this was in my wife's Rookie's place in West Plains, Missouri, and there was a plant that was hanging up right above where she was supposed to place her head, and she said, "But I don't like this plant hanging up there." And then we said, "No, nothing is going to happen. This plant has been there for a long time. The hook is very rigid and it's not going to fall." And then she said, no, please remove it. And then we just joked and we said, you have faith in Baba. Baba is not going to throw that on your head. She said, "Wait a second. Baba will definitely drop it on my head." And then he will tell me, "Didn't you have the common sense to put a plant above you when you're sleeping down there?" And that struck me, because then we said, now this has some meaning, because all the time we say, "Well, I'm leaving it to Baba," but Baba says, "Well, leave it to me, but filter it with your common sense before you do anything." And that sort of has helped me in other spheres also. Whenever you do something and you tend to take more risk than you should, you say, "Well, am I using my common sense before I rely on Baba?"
Baba had close contact with your family from before the time of your birth. What are your memories and what you've been told about Baba's interaction with your family from around that time, from before you were born and until he dropped his body?
Baba, when my mother was carrying me, that time Baba was pretty anxious about when I would be born and things like those. And during my birth, after my birth, Baba sent a telegram, "Name him Merwan." And now this has been a touchy topic, but somehow he said, this is Norina, and name him Merwan, something like that he said. And then from what I hear from my mother, he used to come down to Bindra house and feed us and sort of play with us and do things like that. When I say us, it was me and baby Mera. That time both of us were, we were born a month apart or something like that. Now, he said in none of the other cases has he mentioned to someone that he was someone in the past. And for all my youth and my teenage years, I kept wondering, why did he do that? And in fact, I'm feeling different that I can talk about it so openly, because always I felt it's an odd knowledge to know and not know whether it's so. But I think I've started to be more curious about it and try to find out what it all means, why did he do that, and what's the purpose of it, something like that. When the LA Sahavas committee, they sent me the invitation to come here and talk, I wrote to Erach. Erach is my uncle, he's my mother's cousin. And I said, were you there when he sent this telegram? And why do you think he did that? And so he says, first thing, let me tell you, don't take it too seriously. that made me feel good, because
You mean you don't get the rights to her book?
And I was glad he said something like, he said, Baba used to just, but I said, but were you there when this happened and when he sent that telegram? And he said, no, I wasn't, but don't take it too seriously, and just, if he wants you to know, you will know. So just don't think about it a lot. And I think I would like to leave it at that.
But it does sort of give you one of those puzzles, or sort of like maybe a grain of sand in the oyster, something to sort of work on that helps you remember Baba over the course of your life, do you think?
Yes, that is, in fact, the other day I was talking to Jane Brown on the phone. She's at Myrtle Beach. And we were joking about it, and I said, well, at least having knowledge, something like that, Baba has made sure that I don't go out of his fold, or I don't be a non-Baba lover or something like that. So in a way that has sort of made a kind of a boundary around you, and that was what we were joking about. But it's I would want to find out more and see what the whole thing was, but at this point in time, I would just want to leave it at that.
Now, you mentioned to me that Baba also said something about your siblings being old disciples, or
right. In fact, when my brothers were born too, he said, these are my old disciples. And I said, that would be nice to know that you are just an old disciple. It wouldn't really pinpoint anything. But like you were telling me yesterday, it's nice to know, but I don't know for sure if you were in my shoes whether it would be nice to know. So.
And then you said that Baba would come and feed you. Do you mean that he fed you and your
baby Mera? That's what my mother used to tell me.
With his own hands?
I don't remember a lot of detail on that.
Yeah,
Sam.
Well, you were very young then, I guess. What were your memories of meeting Baba?
The most prominent memory that I have in my mind is when Baba gave his last darshan at Merazad. This was during Dara's and Amrit's wedding, and I was a boy of 10 that time. And I remember sitting on the right side of those lawns outside the mandali hall, just behind mandali hall. And Baba walked onto the porch, and he stood there and just raised his hand, and at that time I felt his eyes were just looking very fresh, but then he was sort of looking tired, and those are my last memories of him. Those are pretty clear still in my mind, and sort of immediately after that, I think this was in December, 10th of December or something like that, when this happened, and Baba dropped his body on the 31st of January. So, and when he dropped his body, naturally you start thinking about the last moments you had with that person, and I guess that sort of made those memories really well implanted into my mind. But that is what I have, and those are my last remembrances of Baba.
And you were how old at that time?
I was 10 at that time.
So Merwan, were there some experiences that your parents had around Baba or with Baba that you'd like to relate?
Oh, I have told most of the things that my mother has sort of reminded me of, but Baba, in fact, my mother always kept saying Baba was a fun person to have around, and Baba used to come at 5 o'clock in the morning and take the mandali, and my mother used to be one of the persons who went along with the mandali to, that time it was the Sarosh cinema that was just outside the Sarosh canteen, and they used to watch movies of Laurel and Hardy or Charlie Chaplin or something like that. And for a long time after that, she kept saying, oh, I had so much fun with Baba, and that her memories of that all made life for her so easy to live after that. In fact, what happened was my dad, he died 6 months after Baba died. So he died in August '69, and so my mother was a widow after that, 3 children. One was 10, one was 8, and one was 6. But still, her memories of Baba, I thought, kept her going and sort of helped her bring us up.
And what about special experiences with Baba? Anything come to mind?
Myself?
You or close family members?
Well, the only sort of thing that I can say was close to a miracle was looking at Baba's picture outside Mera's window. And I don't know how many of you have really gone and seen that. Yeah, on that tree. It was, and I saw it when it was at its peak. It looked like Baba. It was just amazing. And in fact, some said he looked like he was dressed in one of his costumes then that the mandali had made for him. But the way I looked at it, he looked the way that the world saw him last before he dropped his body. I mean, after he dropped his body, the way his face looked was very similar to what was there on the tree. And that was quite an experience for me. And another thing was, there's a hotel called the Ripon Hotel in Mahabaleshwar, and the owners there are ardent Baba lovers. And these owners, they said that there's a Baba picture come on the rock there. And so I got interested and went and wanted to look at that. And that was amazing too. I was sad I did not have a camera then, or I would have taken pictures, but at least I have it in my mind the way it looked. And I'm sure there are pictures available of those of that rock along with the moss and all that grew and formed Baba's face on that. Now, the thing to remember, well, the way I have known Baba and sort of tried to read about Baba did not want to use such, he called it occult phenomena to sort of affect people. And he used it wherever he thought it would not really hamper what he was trying to achieve. Means create the wick of love in our hearts and things like those. And so I do not place so much importance on such things happening, but those are things that I remember about Baba.
You also mentioned that shortly before he dropped his body, he said something about your father.
Right, I learned about that pretty recent, maybe 5 or 6 years back, when I was talking to one of my grandaunts, and she said, "Oh, your father knew when he was going." I said, "What did you mean? What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, Baba had told him that you will follow me 6 months after I died." And that's what happened. He died 6 months after Baba died. So I don't know how much credence to give to the fact, but at least that's what happened.
But I think you may want to tell a few more of the details of how that occurred, if you...
Yes. When my father died, I was 10. I was in a boarding school then, and we had come for a vacation, and it was the vacation we called the Parsi New Year. The Parsi New Year and and Zoroaster's birthday, they sort of make it into a vacation, and we have 10 or 15 days off during that time. So I was in Ahmednagar that time, and my father said, "Oh, I'm having some chest pains and I need to see a cardiologist." And so we called the cardiologist, and he was to come to our place the next day. My father in the morning gets up and he says, "Well, I think I'll just take a rest today. I'm just not feeling good, so I'll just lie down." And he lies down. And then within a short time, the cardiologist comes to check him out. The cardiologist checks him out, and then the cardiologist is moving out of the room, and suddenly he starts to breathe in a high manner and takes high breaths. And the cardiologist naturally rushed back in. What's happening? And he died just with the cardiologist standing beside him performing CPR, and nothing worked. So, but the thing was, why I'm relating this incident is, if the way I'm looking at it now, if Baba told him, "You're coming after me 6 months after me," and if a cardiologist could not save him, that was what was supposed to happen. So it's like, well, the whole thing was with Baba, after that incident with Baba, and with Baba saying, "Well, all you're doing is dropping your body and taking another body, just like you change a garment." That sort of, our whole family started to take that and apply it to real life. Because when a person dies, and a close person like a father or a mother or something like that, that is when your beliefs or your sort of convictions really get tested. And so when he said that, and we said, "Well, Baba said that it's just a body, he's just passing from one to the other." And after my father died, we lost 3 aunts, and we lost quite a few relatives. And in fact, if you go to Mehrabad, on the way to Mehrabad, we have a whole plot of land which we have reserved for the whole Satta family, and there are lots of, all of our people are sort of buried there. I'm sure a lot of you know Dhan also, Dhan Satta, and she was also buried there. But the whole point was that being so close with Baba and having the conviction that, oh, this is nothing but just passing from one form to the other and life keeps going on, that has helped me sort of live with such tragedies and still have a pragmatic approach to the whole thing.
Merwan, you seem to have a large family. Siblings, brothers, sister, aunts, uncles, a lot of people who knew about Baba. Are they all pretty much committed Baba lovers?
Yes, mostly. I have 2 brothers. Who stay in India. Both of them are Baba lovers. And now, in a family that when you're born a Baba lover, usually a time comes when you have to be a Baba lover for yourself and not be a Baba lover since your parents are telling you to. And all of us, I'm sure, went through that. And I'm sure since all of you are Baba lovers, your children are going to have the same problem. But that's what happened to us. You sort of, a time comes wherein you rebel and you start questioning, and then you start saying, "Well, how can this man say something so much like he's God," and things like those. You question, but then eventually he has a way of drawing you in and sort of docking you. So that's what I guess has happened to most of my cousins and surely to my brothers also. Now, the reason we had a kind of an interview format set up was that we will sort of, if you have questions or something like that comes to your mind, just ask. So at the same time we can... baby Mera was my cousin. He's Roshan Kerawala's daughter.
Okay. I thought maybe it was a sister, and I'm wondering how.
No. Thanks for asking that question. The telegram was Baba sent a telegram that named him Merwan, and he's a reincarnation of Narina. It was a telegram to that effect. Maybe the wording may be different, but that was the gist of it.
Has Baba ever been known to lie? Why would you doubt that?
That is a good question. Why would I doubt that?
I mean, Eric might have said, just don't take it too seriously, but Baba said it.
Baba said it. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a funny thing to lie about.
I would say so.
Dinah, are you confirming the...
I was wondering, you were saying that it creates trouble, that knowledge, or creates problems. What would the problem be?
Okay, why am I doubting that this would be the truth? Because how do you fit into Narina's shoes? Narina used to get messages directly from Baba. When she was talking in Rockefeller Center and all those good places in New York, she used to get sort of transmissions from Baba. And if you read her books, I tried reading what she said, and I felt, well, maybe this. It seems like at least it's not gotten to me yet. So.
Have you ever had any sort of feelings or some sort of sense of, oh, that feels familiar, that feels some connection with her in her life? I mean, any sort of, however vague, some sort of little sense of something feeling familiar, about her life?
Not yet.
I would just like to make a comment that Mr. Christ often would say, well, Baba would say something like, he would say, I am going to speak at such and such a time, but he didn't do it. And so it's some of that stuff is a mystery, and only he knows. So maybe eons away it might be so, or it might be so. But I mean, I think you can't always just take it literally. Yeah. I mean, Mr. Christ used to say that a lot of times, because I used to question that. Why do you do that? In my kind of Anglo-Saxon, if you get your word, you're supposed to do it. So, I mean, anyway, that's just a comment.
When you said you had to make the decision to be a Baba lover, can you relate that incident or the circumstances that led up to that, where you had to reaffirm for yourself as opposed to just being born into the family?
Yes. I was born a Zoroastrian Parsi, so my father had my ceremony done. We used to wear the sadra and the kasti and all that. And then I started becoming more interested in Zoroastrianism and the religion and all that. At the same time, I was in contact with Baba and what Baba had said and all that. So in my teenage years, I used to say, on one side, I have this whole religion, which is all prayers and all these ceremonies and all that. And on the other side, you have Baba, who's saying, just get rid of all the ceremonies and all that. They have no real meaning. Just go with loving God, doing all these things which make you a better human being. So then you start thinking about which is the thing that will give you your values, which is the thing that is sort of going to get you through life. And at a point in time I decided, no, Zoroastrianism does not have enough to offer. In the sense, I like being a Zoroastrian. I'm not saying I would give up Zoroastrianism, only for the fact that Baba also said he was Zoroastrian in a previous incarnation. And what I got from Zoroastrianism was just the 3 tenets of Zoroastrianism will do everything. Have good thoughts, have good words, and do good deeds. And just these 3 is enough for me to take from Zoroastrianism. And then I started getting more interested in other things about spirituality, and that's when I started reading about Baba and sort of studying about what he said and things like those, and talking to the Mandali people and all that. And then I said, I'm better off being more of a Baba lover, and that drew me towards Baba drew me towards him more than Zoroastrianism would. So I wouldn't want to give up Zoroastrianism, but at the same time, you're a Baba lover, so.
Rosalie.
I was going to say, Merwan, that it was funny because when I stayed at Meher Colony in 76, Nashawan, he was just kind of shuffling along one day and he says, Norina lives down the road. And he just kind of said it like that, and he says, you were in Shireen Cottage and everything. But it was a funny thing. It was like, it was so sweet to meet you, and that was not an impediment at all, except for the fact that people told me not to say anything. Nashawan never said that, but people says that you might be upset, or so I never say anything. But it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of like playing a part or something in a movie. It's like a wonderful part because you were with Baba, But always it was given to me naturally, like your mom showed me the telegram.
Did she show you that?
The postcard. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was so intoxicated that day. She was feeding me. You were there, everyone was there. Oh, you had Baba's pajamas and you had things from the new life, and I tell you, I didn't know if I was sitting or laying down. It was such a wonder, and I even had coffee, and I never drink coffee. Wow. But what I love about your family is, and I think your family, if anyone can handle something like that, because your family's so natural. I mean, like Erich, and I always felt, God, I could relax here. Nashawan, Mom, you could just relax around you and talk about God. And it's really it's a great grace, because Norina or whatever, it's like, how do we know? But it's such a grace to be natural. It's just, whoa. And I love your family. I love it. I'll go to my grave and above my grave loving them.
You mentioned that you were spending a lot of time with the people who were near Baba, and that you seem to be saying that affected you and your thoughts about Zoroastrianism and following near Baba. What was it about the people who were near Baba, his mandali, that made you consider choosing Baba?
I think it's a privilege to be a member of the mandali. I'm talking about a glimpse of Baba. Just imagine of a person who has lived most of his life with Baba. And a lot of the Baba's impressions or Baba's thinking or Baba's knowledge sort of gets into the mandali. And when you talk with people from the mandali, it's just so fascinating to me when they talk about how Baba used to do this and what Baba had to say about this and what would Baba do in a situation, something like that. And I feel, looking at all that, now if you look at Zoroastrianism on the other side, Zoroastrianism is a lot of prayers. It's a very old religion, and a lot of Zoroastrians are very narrow-minded. It's sad, but the way I look at Zoroastrianism today, maybe Zoroastrianism will not last for another 1,000 years or 2,000 years. And then I think, well, why does Zoroastrianism need to last? And I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel about it. If the world can know about Zoroastrianism and say it's just good thoughts, good words and good deeds, that's all the Zoroastrianism we need. But Zoroastrianism is very powerful too. I would like to take people and show them the fire that is there in the fire temples. Zoroastrians have a fire temple, if you're aware, and the fire that we burn in the temple, it's burned for ages. It's just a very old fire. And if you stand in front of that fire, it's got power. You sort of feel this is no ordinary fire. I felt like that when I stood in front of the fire. But the way we're sort of headed, it looks like Zoroastrianism would not allow other people to become Zoroastrians. Zoroastrianism is, we are how many now? 150,000 in the world. It does not take a lot of thinking to find out that 150,000 will just die over time and you would not be there. I don't know whether I answered your question, but what I'm saying is all these things sort of make you think. And then I feel, in fact, at this point in time I feel, why would I even consider something else when Baba was there? But then in my teenage years, when you are sort of trying to evaluate, trying to question, and I'm sure I see a lot of young faces, you might be doing the same thing now and you might be in the same boat now, so.
Reading Baba about it, one of the strong things that came through was that he said you should follow your own faith, that in which you were brought up. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Thank you. That confirms me in my thought. And the other was, I remember reading about a question put to Baba when he said that he was in the persona of Jesus. And he said, there was some question about something that happened in the Gospels. He said, oh yes, I remember. He said, I made a mistake in that. And do you remember that?
I remember, yes. I remember him.
He made a mistake with Norina.
I just want to remind you, he said he made one mistake.
Well, fine.
Reincarnation.
Linda, did you have a question?
I wanted to ask if his parents had ever received any special orders from Baba.
A number of orders, yeah. In fact, I don't have all those telegrams that were sent to my family, but sometimes Baba would say, go and stay in Bombay for such a long time or for such and such time. And then Baba would say, okay, come back to Ahmednagar and stay for a year for this time to this time, something like that. Baba told my father, okay, go and take a job with this person for such and such time. Things like those. There were times when we got a lot of orders from Baba. Through Erich, yes.
Merwan, when you were a teenager, did you have friends who weren't Baba lovers?
Yes.
And how did they ask you about Baba, and how did you relate to them?
The way I handled this was, I would say, your inner convictions, your values are your own. And these need to sort of flourish in your own mind. And it would not really bother me if somebody would tell me otherwise, oh no, that is not true or something like that. And I said, well, I'll find out if he's if Baba is what he's saying he is, or if I should follow what you are saying or something like that. So I did have friends who weren't Baba lovers, but that they were Zoroastrians, and sort of we said, well, Baba said he was Zoroaster, and what Baba has said is not very different from what the basic tenets of Zoroastrianism are anyway. So, but then we would say, well, it's your choice. Either you just go ahead and follow the ceremonies and the rituals that sort of Zoroastrianism is made of, or you go ahead and try understanding what Baba has said and try to live those principles. So yes, I did have friends who weren't Baba lovers, and I just didn't pay a lot of attention to what their opinion was in that matter until my own convictions were developed.
So Merwan, you've been living in the United States since 1987.
That is correct.
Do you miss living halfway between Mehrabad and Mehrazad?
I would like to be there more often. Yeah. It is Mehrabad is a special place, and so is Mehrazad. But I used to be on Mehrabad Hill almost once a week or something like that, and yeah, it would be nice to be able to go back there more often. The thing about this is, when you have the opportunity to go there every week as just a matter of fact, you don't seem to value it. And then Baba says, okay, now I'm going to put you across the world, and now you would know what you had then. And I'm feeling like that, well, whatever I had then was a lot, means I did not give it enough importance when I had it. But yeah, I would like to go more often to India.
We have time for a couple more questions. How are we doing on the clock? Okay.
Do you have any more childhood memories of being Baba firsthand, being with Baba?
No, like I said, my only memories are of seeing Baba on the porch there when he came out, and sort of that was the time that he gave the last darshans. I have some memories of Baba, or not of Baba, but of Guru Prasad. Guru Prasad was the place Baba had in Pune, and my school, it was called the J.N. Pettit School, it was right opposite Guru Prasad. And so on a number of occasions, when Baba used to schedule a visit to Pune, my uncle Roshan Kerawala and her dad Homi Sattha and Banu Masi and all those people, they used to go and help cleaning Guru Prasad when Baba was planning to come. And my memories of that time are, yeah, I used to go and help them with the cleaning, and sort of I used to be doing mischief all the time there on those nice porches and nice patios they had there. But apart from that, no, I do not have a lot of memories of remembering Baba.
You talked about your father. How did he become a Baba lover?
I do not exactly know how he became a Baba lover. He was Baba went to Navsari. Navsari is one of the strongholds of the Parsi community. Baba was a Zoroastrian, and when Baba went to Navsari, which was a stronghold of the Parsi priests, the Parsi priests had a big sort of a standoff, and they said, this guy, how can he say he's God? And they all sort of got together, and sort of there were lots of shouts and fights and things like those happening there. And I think my father was involved from that time on, and though he didn't have a loud voice, or he wasn't the person who shouted, but then I think from that time on he came to know Baba and sort of gradually became a Baba lover. My father's two brothers are ardent Baba lovers, and in fact Perrine, I don't know whether you know her, Perrine Jasumani from Canada. Yeah, she's my first cousin. She's my first cousin from my father's family. And so that my father became a Baba lover, then his brother, that is Perrine's dad, became the Baba lover, and then another brother of his also became Baba lovers. And so that has sort of rubbed off that way. Another interesting incident I'm remembering during those times that we had in Navsari, when all these priests got together and shouted names at Baba. There was one priest who has ended up now in Ahmednagar as a priest. And he was a priest at that time, and in fact, if you go to Ahmednagar, meet him, he will tell you stories about how he shouted and how he sort of cursed Baba then, and eventually he became a Baba lover. And now he took a transfer from Navsari. He came to Ahmednagar just to sort of take care of the fire temple in Ahmednagar. And it is special now that you have a priest in Ahmednagar who is supposed to be the custodian of the Zoroastrian religion, who is a Baba lover. And I think those are the ways Baba works.
You lost your own dad when you were 10, and sometimes when we hear about Baba's nieces and nephews, they talk about how decisions regarding education or decisions regarding a marriage, that the family always consulted with Baba. But I was thinking you're more in the position that we were in, is that you were, when you were growing up and making these important decisions, Baba was not in his physical body, and you couldn't just, your mother couldn't say, should he be an engineer, or should he do this, or should he do that. So I would just like a few of your thoughts on, as you were growing up and as your family faced any life crises, or as you made decisions about marriage, and how did Baba and the Baba family and your relations with the mandali, how did that enter into the process that you were going through?
Interesting question.
That's what comes to mind. A lot of us go through craziness in terms of wanting to do what Baba wants us to do, or wanting to do the right thing. And so I just wonder how, when you were in conflict or confused about a decision, if you could remember how your family or how you would approach it with Baba.
The way I have approached decisions like this is, though we have a special relationship with the family, with the mandali, and sort of always we keep the mandali aware of what happens in our family and things like those. The way I look at it, I let the decision come from within and think Baba is going to help me make a decision like that. A decision of leaving India and maybe coming here and doing things, whatever. I said, well, maybe there is a purpose, and I let it sink in for me for a long time, and then I said, I think I have to go to America. And when I told this, I remember one of my uncles, Dadi, he said, well, I guess it's just Baba drawing you there, so you have to go. And I said, well, I guess that's how I'm feeling now. So, and I think you should apply, the way I'm looking at it, you should apply the same principle of common sense and see whether it sort of fits in with what you're doing, and also take an input from what other close people have to say. But then if I felt strongly about something, and if other people were telling me otherwise, I would still do what I'm feeling strongly about.
Could you say a little bit about Nashwan and something about what Baba let him be politically active, or with Gandhi, or
something about
Nashwan, how it seems like Nashwan told me that Baba gave him an exception, that he could kind of be involved in politics, and as long as he remembered who was boss, or do you remember anything?
No, but the way I'm looking at it, Baba did tell him that, you could be in politics and still control your ego, in a sense, have something that means you still would be doing good for the country, but have a kind of a provisional ego and not sort of become egoistic about it. But I don't think, maybe we'll elaborate more about this in our other talk, about how he wanted people to live in the world and not be of it. So.
I think it's time to wrap. Merwan, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you.
Avatar Meher Baba.